Hey everyone, happy Friday. Thanks for joining me for another craft night with friends. Tonight we are continuing on the Stitching Raccoon Embroidery Sampler. We are almost through all the stitches. We have 3 more to do, so we are going to start with the feather stitch tonight. So thanks again for joining me. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for beginners. And I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, and it's a time that we can relax and craft together. So we are this far. We're getting there. We're working on the bottom stitches, then trying them out in the actual design, and then we will go back and finish the rest of the design once we have the bottom stitches done. So that's the plan. This is a free pattern that you can get at penguinfish.com. There's a link below and a link in my profile to get that. So totally free pattern. It also comes as a kit, and I'm working from the kit right now, which has the pre-printed design on it. All right, you guys, let's get going. All right, so here we are. All right, so tonight we're going to work on the feather stitch here. Let's get lower so you guys can see. Okay, so right here is our little feather stitch, and up top it's going to be the little Queen Anne's lace kind of leaves right there. So let's get it in the hoop again. It was fun kind of doing all those French knots last night. All right, let's do that long and short stitch. Or not the long and short stitch, the feather stitch first. Okay, so that is with the, I believe it's the kind of golden red color. Oh no, it's the teddy bear, the light brown color. So we'll grab some of that. Ooh, I have a piece ready to go already, so I don't have to split the floss right away. Oh, I'm so happy you're here, Orlia. All right, here we go. All right, so I think I'm going to weave into these stitches, the backs of the stitches, and then we'll jump over and do the feather stitch. I like weaving in the backs of stitches versus tying knots. If you've been with me here the last few nights, you'll see that I haven't done any knots on the back, really. It's kind of this third one that locks it in place. I'm kind of close to the hoop, so it's a little difficult to weave in, but we're getting it. There, we're there. All right, so the feather stitch. So this is going to feel a whole lot like when we did the lazy daisy stitch, the chain stitches, even the blanket stitch. It's going to feel very similar. So we're going to come up on, we want to think about them like little V's. So really, if you wanted to look at it this way, you'd have all these kind of stacked V's. That's kind of how we're thinking about this. So I'm going to go, I'll just hold it this way even. I'm going to go at one side of the V, pull through, and then I'm going to have my thread again go like kind of parallel to the loop, kind of how we are doing with the lazy daisy stitches where we have the thread kind of going in the same shape as the loop. We're doing the same thing here. I'm going to go to the other side of the V, and then I'm going to, before I pull the thread too far through, I'm going to come up at the bottom of the V, so that bottom part of the V. Oh, you caught me again. Oh, I'm so happy you're here. All right, so we're working on the feather stitch. So you can see I'm kind of in the middle of that loop again. So we've been in the middle of the loop for all of our chain stitches, for the blanket stitch. Now same thing with the feather stitch. So I'm going to pull that through, and our thread is going to kind of catch the bottom of that V because it was on the other side of that loop. And there's our first feather stitch. So it's very similar to a, one of our detached chain stitches, but instead of the points starting at the same point, like this started at the same point, and then we did the loop. Instead, we started at different points, but we basically still have that same loop. So now, instead of making that little anchor stitch, like just on the other side of that stitch, how we did in our lazy daisy stitches and our single detached chain stitch, we are going to just start the next stitch. So we're already at the first part of the next V. We're going to just hop over to the top of the other side of that V. Again, with our thread going in the same shape of that V. Pull through a little and then come up inside that loop at the bottom of the V and pull through. There, so we just did one like that direction. Now let's do one going back this way. Top of that V and then at the bottom. And we just basically keep catching the bottom of those V's there. And what's neat about the feather stitch is you can actually like keep going one direction. So like if I keep going like this, I'm gonna go right. So I'm going right and coming up at the bottom. I could actually go right again and I'd have another V right here. I could keep going right and I'd have a whole pile of V's going this way, and then I could start going left and have a whole pile of V's going this way. So it's just kind of fun. You can kind of decide where you want to go with it. Oh, Sue says, thank you for showing the feather stitch. I have struggled with it. So yeah, so this is, I'm showing you if it's all kind of completely drawn out, like how it is in our design up here, where you can actually see the V's. The next little part, I'm going to show you a way to think about doing the feather stitch if you don't have it all drawn out for you like this. All right, this is gonna be my last one here. So I'm coming up at that V, and you know I can go this way too, but I'm still actually thinking about it as like these vertical V's. All right, so that's the last one of my feather stitches. So now I can go back and put that tiny little anchor stitch on the other side of our loop there. Oop, let's get that in place again. There you go, just on the other side. Not in the same hole, but just right on the opposite side of that V. And that's gonna tack down our final little V so it doesn't pop up at all. So, all right, that is the feather stitch. And I love when you can go like 3 this way, then 3 that way. I think it's really good at kind of looking like kelp or algae. So if you're doing like a little fish design or something, just some vertical feather stitches look really fun. They almost look like little chicken like little footprints and stuff. Okay, so I drew these lines here just to kind of give you an idea on how to think about the feather stitch. So let's think about these lines as 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can think about these lines, or you can actually draw them on yourself. Like let's say you have this big wide open space and it's just like, do the feather stitch there, right? So like how are you supposed to approach that? How I like approaching that is by drawing these 4 lines. And so I would draw it with like a water-soluble marker or like a pencil, something that I can kind of rub off afterwards. But I'm going to think about starting at the first line. Let's start at the top of the first line. Then I'm going to skip the second line and go to the third line. So we're going to go right up top there. And I'm going to keep my thread to the side here. And actually, if the thread gets out away, you can put it back in the right spot. So all right, so I went to the first line and then the third line. Now I'm going to come back to the second line. And I'm going to come over the next little bit like that. But I want to make sure that I'm catching that loop again, so I'm going to lay that around there. So are these stitches supposed to be traced but not included in the picture? So it's different for different patterns. So Phyllis, for just a demo purpose, I'm drawing it on there. If you don't want to see these lines in the final picture, like if you traced it, then you don't have to trace it. I kind of actually like seeing it in the sampler, seeing the lines, even though the lines will still always be there. But it's just like a good reminder when you see a sampler like this, like, oh yeah, I can think about it as the 4 lines. So you can draw them on. I think it would be helpful just to get the idea of it. But typically, if you're just tracing a design, you can just trace like it drawn on there right away. But you won't always have this in other designs. So my designs usually have it all drawn out like this, but you might come across in the world of embroidery where they just say like do the feather stitch, you know, down this line, but really you have to think about it as a few lines like this. All right, so we went from the first line to the third line and then came out the second line 1 stitch over. Now we're going to jump up to the 4th line, and then we're going to come out on the 3rd line. So we're like doing evens and then odds basically. So let's catch that. All right, so now I'm going to come back down to the bottom. I'm going 3 to 1. And you can actually, let's hold it this way again so you can see those V's. You can actually go in and out in the same motion. That's helpful sometimes. So, all right, this is our last one. So let's go over 2 to the left and then come up in the middle, but down a bit like so. And then we want to come through the inside of that loop yet. There, and then I'm already catching it right away. All right, so now we go back to the 4th line and then down a stitch, but onto the 3rd line, inside that loop, and there we go. So I think we can get a few more. And if your loop's like, if you haven't put like the thread like that, let's do it one like that. So I'm going over to the left 2, then out. At this point, you can just put that thread underneath your needle, and then that'll make sure that you're catching it. But there we go. We got a cute little feather stitch going. So let's do another one here, but I'm going to show you just quickly what it would look like if I just kept going that direction. So I've been going 1 to the right, then 1 to the left, 1 to the right, 1 to the left. But feel free to keep going. So I'm gonna imagine going another one this direction and then coming up here. Oh, you missed the French knot. Oh, we can go. We'll do maybe a little review at the end of the French knot. Of the French knot. Otherwise, it's on the last YouTube video from last night. So if you go to my profile, there's the YouTube link, the video from last night. We go like super duper in depth with it. I would definitely take a look. And then actually, you guys, this is a free pattern, so you can download this free pattern, and it comes with 14 emails of like there's 14 stitches, so there's like, you get a stitch a day basically. And I have videos for the French knot and stuff then. But last night we did go through kind of in depth like the 3 things you might be doing wrong. So if you're having trouble with French knots, I definitely suggest looking at last night's video. You can see it on YouTube, because I bet you if you're having trouble, you're doing at least one of these 3 things. So you can check that out. Oh yeah, no problem. And I like to hope that after watching that and knowing like what those 3 things are, I bet you that'll help a little bit. And I'd love to hear if it does too. All right, so there I went 1 more that way, so we have 3 going that way, which is kind of cute. We can even do another one. Let's just go over another. Now I'm imagining those lines. There, so we did a bunch going that way, and then we could actually come back the other way now. Do a bunch of ones going to the left. Oops, I gotta go 1 more line there. Kind of running a little awkward stitching that direction. But there we go. So you can get all piles of different shapes with those feather stitches if you just keep going one direction and come back the other. So that's just kind of fun. All right, so I'm going to tack that down with that last little anchor stitch, so it'll hold that last little V. Fun! Okay, so there we are. All right, so let's weave in the ends here. And then I'm going to jump up and we'll stitch it in the top area. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Snip that. Oh, yep, exactly, Amy. So that's how I think about it, like doing the odds and then coming down one and then doing the evens. So odds, then evens, odds, and evens. Yeah, you're just kind of skipping one and then coming back to the center and then skipping the next one. So yep, evens and odds. All right, so let's move our design a little bit, and we will do that top little part. So I always kind of like, after we've been learning the stitch down here, you know, seeing a stitch in like a sampler like this is different than when you're actually seeing it in a real piece, right? So you can learn where you could use these and a fun way to play with the different stitches. So up here is where we have the feather stitch, and that is in the little Queen Anne's lace. So we're popping back up there. We spent a lot of time there last night doing all the little French knots up there. So we could actually review the French knots maybe here a little bit. Well, it's a different color, so we're going to stick to this green. We'll do the feather stitch here, and then I'll probably have a little bit of thread left, so I might just actually finish this split stitch that I didn't quite get done here. So we can figure that out. All right. Get that in the hoop. Oh, Kimberly, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. Okay, let's get some thread. So this is the lime color. I'm going to grab some of that. Oh, good, and I have a piece still, so I still haven't had to separate any thread yet tonight because I had some ready already. Okay, thread that. So I'm doing that pinch method of threading the needle again. So I'm pinching it between my two fingers and then unpinching slowly. And the moment I see the pinching, the floss there, I'm going to put the needle right above there. Oops, all right. Let's trim our end, get that nice. All right. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to weave in the ends over here, and we'll just jump up to one of these little feather stitches. And the rest of this stem was done with the split stitch, so we'll probably go back and do some of that as well. Phyllis, I'm using a size 5 embroidery needle. So an embroidery needle, I've said it here a little bit, but an embroidery needle is a little bit different than a cross-stitch needle. Embroidery needle has a sharp point, whereas a cross-stitch needle has a blunt point. So the sharp point allows you to go through fabric like this a little bit easier, whereas the blunt point allows you to go through like the cross-stitch fabric with the holes in the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to hop all the way up to the top of our V's here. So you can't start a feather stitch at the bottom here. You gotta start at the top. So you gotta still think about it as V's. So I'm starting there. Let's have this thread go in the shape of the V, and then other side of the V, and then coming up at the bottom. And we want to catch that loop at the bottom of the V there. Cute! All right, so now we're making one to the left. Let's do one where I just do the stabbing motion. So stab, and then come up before you pull the thread all the way through, keeping that loop at the bottom there. All right, there we go. Down, and then up at that point. Let's get closer here so you guys can see. I think these just make like these kind of ferny, delicate little leaves. I think that's fun. Okay, and you know, instead of doing a little anchor stitch right here, I'm pretty close to the end of this, so I'm gonna just make this stitch a long stitch, like a straight stitch there, and that's gonna hold down that that point, the bottom of that V there. I didn't have to do a little tiny anchor stitch. I just did it like a longer anchor stitch, so that totally works as well. All right, so now I'm gonna jump up and do this other one here. And it doesn't really matter what side you start on, like which side of that letter V. You can start on the left or the right. You're going to get the same exact stitch out of it. So I'm going to just go to the other side. The trick is just coming out in the middle there within your looped, your like U shape. Okay, Lenore's asking, when you start and finish your threads, I assume you go under the prior stitches the first time. Do you split the threads on the second and third pass? Oh, yeah, so when I'm weaving in the ends, on the back, I am trying to catch as many threads as possible. So sometimes there's more threads to grab, like in the back stitch, there's a lot of thread on the back that I can just grab all of those. Sometimes I have to make more threads to grab. So like, on the backs of these stitches, I have like less, they're like more like little notches because we did the split stitch there. There's not as much stuff on the back. So there, the first pass, I kind of went underneath the stitches just to get more base there, really. And then the second and third pass, yes, I'm trying to grab as much, like trying to go in a different path, as different of path as possible. We're kind of making like a little swirly knot there, basically. If you go in the same path, then it's just not going to be as strong. There's more of like a channel for it to pull out, I guess. All right, so this one I could make one large stitch, or I could like do this in a couple stitches. Why don't we, I think I'm going to do one large stitch. Let's just have this go all the way to the end. I think that actually looked pretty cute on the other one. There. All right, that's looking kind of sweet. Little ferny. All right, so I have a little bit of thread left, and we just have barely any more of this split stitch to do. So I think I'm going to just jump up here and do some of that split stitch, and then we'll call it on this green, and we'll hop back down and start the satin stitch. But this is just too much. I can't just leave that tiny little bit there. So I'm gonna, instead of jumping way up there, I'm gonna just kind of grab some of the backs of these stitches. It's called traveling. So instead of having like a big jump, a big like loopy loop there, it's just gonna hold those threads on a little bit better. All right, let's see. This is the split stitch. So we worked on this. All of these lines are the split stitch in this design, and it has kind of like a little of an, I call it like an organic look. I think it's just less structured than like a back stitch where you can see every little beady stitch. It just kind of mushes together, and I think it just looks really kind of pretty. So that's what we're doing for this Queen Anne's lace. So I'm going to come up kind of where I left off here. I just ran out of floss last time we worked on it. That's why I got this one little bit. Okay, so I'm going to make my stitch going forward on the line. So this is a little review of the split stitch. Then I'm going to go back a little bit, and I'm going to bring the needle up right in the middle of that last stitch. So I'm actually splitting those threads. I'm going right through the middle of that. So all right, that's our first split stitch, and then we just keep going. Make another stitch. Then come back up a little down the line, trying to stab right through those threads. So now if you were using an even amount of floss, you would you'd have one, like if you're using 2 strands, you'd have 1 strand on one side of the needle, 1 strand on the other. I'm using 3 strands though, so it's kind of going whichever way it wants, which is fine. It looks a little bit more organic, I think, with an odd amount of strands where you can't split it perfectly. When you can split it perfectly, it actually almost looks like a dainty chain stitch, which is kind of cool too. All right, I think we can get this one in one last stitch, and then we got the little just kind of X's to do. And we got to kind of tuck ourselves underneath those French knots that are already there. Typically, I like leaving French knots till later because I don't like when my thread catches on knots. I mean, it's the same reason I don't like knots on the back. So I just got to pay attention so I don't grab my thread on any of these. All right, and let's come down here. And back up. Oh, you guys, tomorrow is the last day for the embroidery of the month. It's that feeling good sunshine embroidery, so that's the last day. Which means it's going to be freaking August on Sunday. Can you believe it? It's just crazy. All right, so done there. I'm going to weave in the ends. So yeah, the first pass, I'm just trying to, I'm still trying to catch as many threads as possible. And when there's a lot of threads on the back already, that's easier to do. And it's a little bit more difficult when you're right next to the hoop there. Oof, okay. And 2 and 3. All right, let's snip. Cute. All right, it's looking nice. All right, so let's take this back out of the hoop and who did that? Amy's asking, is this free pattern and kit available for a while? Yes, so I'm going to have this pattern up indefinitely. So, and it will continually, it'll still be free, this pattern, and it's free with those 14 days of embroidery stitches to go with 14 stitches that we have here. So yes, and I'm going to have the kit available indefinitely as well. All right, Satin Stitch. Let's get the hoop back here. So we're pretty close to the edge here, but I think we can manage just fine. Okay. So Satin Stitch, let's just take a peek at the cover again. So this is that's where you can fill in an entire shape with stitches. So I like using the Satin Stitch when there's kind of a small shape like this. When you get to a larger shape, you might want to switch to the long and short stitch, but it looks like a hair less satiny, like it looks like stitches still, whereas the Satin Stitch is just like one pretty block of color. So that's what we're gonna do that. Nolene, it is John's birthday on Sunday. He is an August 1st birthday. All right, I think this time I'm gonna have to grab some more floss. I don't think we have a big piece of this anymore. So let's get 24 inches or so, a kind of typical length. All right. All right, so let's get our 3 strands out of here. I still like separating them all singly. I do think this is faster. Just gotta isolate one here. These two want to stick together. So I kind of bump the ends like that a little bit. There we go. 2 and 3. Oh, good night, Kimberly. All right. So let's grab them and put them back together. Okay, Satin Stitch. So I think we will fill this satin stitch vertically. You can actually go in any direction. The key is that you're always kind of like splitting it on an axis. So we can actually draw that on. So I'm gonna go vertically. So I'm gonna just draw a line perpendicular to what my stitches are gonna be. So kind of like so. So I'm considering this the bottom of the shape and this the top of the shape. So, all right, let's weave in my ends up here, and then we'll get started. Getting a little ahead of myself. All right, so now here I don't have much to weave in at all. So I'm gonna just kind of start by grabbing a few threads. I mean, yeah, so there I have hardly anything to weave through. So I'm gonna just bring the threads to about there. And now when I go back the second and third time, I'm gonna try and grab as much as I can through here, twist it around things, just try and make a little bit of chaos back there, basically, grabbing as much as I can. All right, so you can see we're starting to get it kind of more solid. And then this last pass, I'm gonna try and go in all different spots, but still kind of grabbing whatever I can here. There we go, and that should do. Let me trim that end up. Okay. I think I gotta didn't tighten the hoop yet. I think I just placed the fabric in there and didn't actually tighten it. All right. Is the cut box it comes in. Okay, Linda says, tell your brother an important consideration for the thread conditioner is the cut box it comes in. Ooh, all right, I'm gonna have to research that. I'll let him know though. Like, let me know what you would prefer for packaging for that. That'd be a good experiment. All right, let's start the satin stitch. So I'm gonna think about this as the bottom half and this is the top half. But I'm going to stitch from left to right. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I like doing as well. So one thing that helps me is putting some like guide posts up, basically. So I'm just going kind of anywhere in here. And let's just go directly across like so. All right, so I'm going to kind of mentally mark that spot and let's go right there. Ooh, I'm kind of a little off actually, but good enough. So that's kind of like one of our little markers, and let's do a few other lines parallel to that. So what this will do is help me as I go along here to stay in the right direction. So I don't like go veer off and like it starts angling or something, all my stitches. Just putting a few of these guides in I think is helpful. All right, so now let's do like one more guide here, and then we'll go all the way to the edge and start. So I'm always starting at the bottom, or basically one side. Like you could go this way. You could always start at the left and go to the right. But you're always starting on one side of that like axis that we drew in, and we're going to the other side. We're never going up and then over and then down, then over, up and over, down and over. We're never doing that. We're always kind of going around in a circle. So always starting at like the bottom, going to the top, coming back to the bottom. There. All right. So here's going to be my last little guide point. All right, so then I'm just going to kind of fill in these spaces with more stitches, always starting at the bottom and going to the top. So I'm going to just, this little space right here, let's fill that first. So I'm going to go right next to our last stitch here. I'm not in the same hole, but I'm about like one or two little fabric threads away from it. So I'm right next to there. Then we're going to go to the top. We can just follow our line, and I'm going to go about one or two little fabric threads away from there. But I'm always sticking to the line. So I'm always kind of like making that rounded shape or whatever the shape your stitching is. But I'm just trying to stay close to the last stitch. So I'm going to come down again here. This might be our last one. I'm just trying to get over that little last part of the line. Yep, so I don't see any more of the edge coming around, and we're starting to get that rounded shape just because our stitches like shrunk each time. Cool, so that's looking good. All right, so let's keep going. So I'm popping over here, but I'm still at the bottom, and I'm gonna go right next to these stitches that we have already. Going straight up, going straight until I hit that top line. All right, and then back down. Back up. Oh, that's a good idea. Amy says, I decided when I do this, I'm going to use 2 hoops, one for the practice stitches and then one for the real picture. Then it'll be, oh, like a front and back of the pillow. Oh, that's cute. Oh, I like that idea. It's kind of fun. All right, so we're getting close to our next little guidepost, and I can kind of tell that I'm a little skinnier at the top there than at the bottom here. So I think I can fit 2 stitches in here, so they're going to just be, I'm going to try and even out this space a little bit. So I'm going to go a little bit further in on this bottom stitch, so a little bit, 3 threads over, let's call it, instead of just 1. And then I'm going to go up top here, but I'm going to try and still stay close to the last one. And that should have maybe like equaled us out a little bit. So I'm always trying to keep my stitches trying to go in the same place. I'm just kind of like equaling them out after a little while. So that's why I wanted my first lines to be as parallel as I could get them. All right, let's get one more here, because then I can see if I'm getting off of the shape there. All right, but there we go. We went to that next line, and that's looking pretty good. I love how shiny satin stitches are. Satiny. Okay, so let's go to our next little space. And if you're feeling like you're needing another line in here as a guide, go ahead and put one in. That's totally fine. And if you don't need any of the lines, then just go at it right away. Just go from all the way to the left to all the way to the right. I do that a lot of times. But having these guides, I do think is definitely helpful. I did this when I was stitching the flower embroidery. Put in some little guideposts. So this takes some practice to, don't be totally discouraged if it's not perfectly straight. One thing that really helps is, like I said, always starting at the bottom and going to or starting on one side, going to the other side. Never switch off, go like a ladder. Don't do it like that. They'll get really loopy, and it's actually it's not gonna be very strong either. Like if you just pull on that, you might break a little thread and then the whole thing comes out. But going around and around like what I'm doing, that ends up nice and solid. And then the other thing is just those guideposts. That's super helpful if you're struggling with the satin stitch. All right, a couple more stitches, and I think we got this guy done. All right, I think one more in there will do it. Fun! All right, so there we are. This is like the perfect little size for a satin stitch. Any bigger than this, and I probably would switch to the long and short stitch. So we'll do the long and short stitch on Monday when we pick this up again. But for now, let's hop up to the top here, and look, it looks like a satin stitch on the back too, which is kind of cool. Which also means it uses up a lot of thread. But that's okay. That's what it's here for. So let's stitch those little mushrooms on the top there. Coming together. Oh, I'll tell John that you said that, Robin. All right, so the satin stitches in this piece, we can look at our instructions again. So this is part of the free pattern. You'll actually have, this is from the printed, the kit, but you actually still have this, so you're not like without actual instructions. So you'll have this, and then you also have like the actual stitches like laid out and written out for you too. But I just wanted to come back here to see if there was satin stitches used anywhere else, and I think we just did them in, yeah, it's just the little mushrooms there. I think it's just crazy that there's actually 14 different stitches up here in this small little space. We're gonna have 14 stitches. So I just think that's so fun. So all right, all these little mushrooms are satin stitches, and yeah, we're gonna just make them just like how we did here. So it's kind of a lot, so that might take us a little bit of time. We got some time. There we are. Okay, I think I have, yep, here it is, the second piece of that orange thread that we got already. All right, let's thread it. Ooh. Let's actually, should have snipped those ends. I was lucky to get those in. There was one a little shorter than the others. Okay, so let's start this. I think I'm gonna start with this one here. I'll weave into the backs of these stitches, and then let's put some of those like guideposts in. And really, you can go any direction with satin stitches. So we could kind of make it look like it's, okay, now we're getting fancy here, but we could kind of make it look like it's going around the shape a little bit. So like maybe these ones, for this mushroom we do vertical, but these ones we kind of angle a little bit, and then maybe these ones are horizontal. That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, all right, let's weave in the end here. I think we have enough time that we can play around with some of those. So in the example, I did all of them kind of vertical. So here I gotta like make my own little starter weave-in area. There we go. Ooh, a little twisty. But yeah, in the example piece, I made all the stitches vertical, like how we just did with the satin stitch at the bottom. But doesn't need to be. They can all go in different directions. That'll be kind of fun. Make it your own. All right, I'm going to snip those little ends. They're going to annoy me. There we go. All right, let's start by putting some of those guideposts in. It's helpful to kind of pull the thread across, I think. I'm actually kind of going on the outside of my line just a little bit, just to make sure that I cover up the line with the stitches. I think we just need 2 little guideposts here. That'll do. I'm not making those very straight, am I? Oh well. We'll try and correct it along the way. All right, so I'm going to kind of consider this point my horizon line. So underneath there is going to be under. So I'm actually going to make actually, I think it'll be easier just going from my guidepost to the left. Let's do that. I was going to start at this teeny tiniest point, but I think the guidepost is a better idea. Let's start at the guidepost and go left, and then we'll jump back and go right for the rest of it. Oh, yes, I saw that. Amy says that Jenna posted her flowers with the 2 strands wrapped around once for the French knots. Yeah, so I talked about, we did a whole French knot land yesterday here, and Jenna, who works with me, she showed me these flowers that she was working on with the teeny tiniest, cutest, sweetest little French knots, and it made such a pretty texture. And she posted a photo of it in the Penguin Fish Crafters group on Facebook if you guys were curious. But she did French knots with, I guess, just 2 strands of thread instead of the 3. But she only wrapped it around once, whereas I've been wrapping mine around twice. So her knots just are a hair smaller, and then she bunched them all together. to make the center of the flower, and it was just so cute. All right, I think I can get one itsy bitsy stitch in here, like a tiniest little stitch. There we go. I kind of made it look like a point over there. All right, let's go back the other way now. Let's start at that guidepost here. Work our way to the next guidepost. So this is one of those stitches that you can just kind of relax into because it's going to take a while to fill up the spaces for sure. This is where you can zen out or watch a movie and just fill in the shapes. But it's fun. I think Satin Stitch just looks so pretty when it's done. Because all the stitches are going the same direction, the light hits it the same way, hits each stitch the same way, and that's what gives it like that nice shiny glow, is that all of the light's hitting all of those stitches exactly the same. So it's just reflecting the light in a similar way. All right, we hit that next guidepost. Let's stitch to the end. Trying to keep my left hand back here so I can feel the stitches, but it's kind of far away. But I want to keep it upright. All right, let's see, like maybe 4 more tiny little stitches here. All right, one more, and I think we got it. Okay, cute. There we are. All right, let's try doing another one of those. So I think, like, let's try a different angle, because why not? So I'm gonna just kind of rotate this. Let's because we're kind of curving around the tree. So let's have this one kind of curve. Or like, I'm not going to curve it within the shape. I'm going to keep them all the same direction. But our starting point can be, like our starting angle, I should say, could be different. Like we could go like that maybe. That'd be kind of fun. So all right, let's go parallel to that line a few times. So the light will, I thought I felt something funny there. The light will hit this a little bit differently than our last one because it'll be different direction. I'm just trying to stay parallel though to the other ones that I'm stitching. I'm gonna put more in this one just because it's an awkward angle I'm not used to. All right, so let's fill those in. So I think I'll just I'm over on this side already. So. Oh, I was going from the top edge. So, all right, this one I'm going to go top edge to the bottom edge instead of bottom to the top. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you stay consistent within your shape. I don't know why I did it that direction. But now we're going top to bottom here. It only matters that you always go back to the side that you started. And I just changed the angle, so I'm still kind of stitching vertically. That's just going to make it easier for me. All right, so we got that side filled. And I'm going, now I'm going right to left, where before I was kind of going left to right. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is starting on one side and ending up on the other side consistently. Like not switching sides in the middle, basically. And we just go to whatever the edge is. like we're gonna hit the side of this tree here, so our edge is gonna change directions, but that's fine. We just keep following it. I think we'll be putting some back stitches there with the brown anyway. All right, I think I can get one more in the middle there. Just make it a little thicker. There. There, it's coming along there. But there you can see the different angle, really. Like, these are vertical and these ones are a little like angled that way. Okay, so let's keep going. Going from this post to the guidepost to the next one. Yeah, for me, I'm like, oh, can I stitch them at a diagonal? It's a little easier just to stay vertical, so I'm just rotating my piece so it ends up being vertical. I think that's a bit easier. Alright, and I think we're going to be running out of floss on this one as well. Ooh, what are we stitching next week? So, Noeline, it is the Granny Square quilt next week, but we'll be working on this for a little bit more, so we might be nixing the Granny Square next week just so we can finish this, because we'll finish the stitches on Monday, but we still got the rest of, the rest of him to stitch, and I kind of want to finish this up, so we'll probably just continue on this, but we might have, it's also finish it Friday, so it'll be the first Friday of the new month where we kind of take a break of whatever we're working on and break out some unfinished project. I do still have, and it's kind of itching at my brain, so it might be time, and I'm kind of enjoying just doing all this embroidery lately. I think I might break out the mandala, the mandala tea towel that I still don't have completed. I gotta get that done. That cannot stay in my unfinished bin anymore. Okay, Christy, so if I print the stick and stitch, do I use the reverse copy? Nope, you do not. You use the normal, the correct facing way. You don't want the reverse for the stick and stitch. You'll just print out the correct way, right on that rough side of the stick and stitch, and then that will just stick directly, so you don't want the reverse. It's different than an iron-on where you actually flip it over and press, so you do need the reverse for that, but this you're just going to stick right on. So nope, no reverse. All right. We're going to finish this up upside down because it's just a little more comfortable, but I'm sticking to the vertical. I like that my left hand can reach over here. And I think we might finish up with just this right here tonight. It's already 9:24, so we're getting there. Versus starting a whole new, another one of these mushrooms. Ooh, it's looking cute though. I think it's going to be really kind of sweet wrapped around the edge. Maybe we can do one more. Let's do one more quick. I want to kind of finish this idea of that they're changing angles here. Let's just give it a try quick. I think I have enough floss. Like, let's see, how long is this piece? Not that long. Let's see. Longer than that one, though. All right, I think I can maybe get one of these smaller ones out of just this much. That I don't have to cut a whole nother piece right now. Oh, wait a sec. This is long. Which one of these is longer? That one. Okay. This should be plenty. Ooh, definitely should have trimmed those edges. Those are fluffy. That was tough to get through the needle. All right, so let's weave in the ends of these stitches, and we'll get that little kind of sideways mushroom. And this is the one that I wanted to do like completely different direction than the first one. All right, so we were vertical, and then we did it at an angle, and then I want like this one on the side to kind of be totally at an angle because it's like going around the mushrooms a little bit. So let's just do some guides quick. So this one I'm doing completely horizontal versus vertical, which I think will be kind of fun. All right, but again, I'm stitching vertically still because that's just most comfortable for me. So that's why we're rotated again. I'm going bottom to top this time though. That's more comfortable for me too. Felt weird going the other direction. Oh, Nolene says, I love the orange fungi. They're such a great color. I just think they're so fun when you see them in real life on trees like this. Just so cool. All right. This is a little itty bitty space. This one's not going to take long to fill. Just the right amount of time. I am running out of floss though, but I'll have plenty. Okay, and I think this might be the last one. There. That's fun. So the light is totally hitting them all, just slightly different. So I think we are kind of getting a little bit of the effect of it kind of wrapping a little bit. I think it's kind of fun. All right, let's weave in the ends and call it an evening. That was a good chunk of satin stitches done tonight. And we got to do that pretty little feather stitch too. I like that one. I don't use that nearly enough. I need to throw that feather stitch in some more designs, I think. That's fun. Ooh, we're getting a new Embroidery of the Month design on Sunday, though, you guys. So, actually, on Saturday night. So, the Feeling Good this month will come down around 10 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. So, that's tomorrow. And then I'll be putting up Sundays right away. So, if you stay up late, you may see Sundays a couple hours early. 2 hours or an hour and a half or so earlier. Than Sunday. All right, so here is where we just have one last little stitch down here. That is going to be the long and short stitch, which will go in the tulip here. So that will be on Monday. We'll come back. So I'm not going to be here this weekend, but I will come back here Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Remember, you can get this free pattern, so you can actually have it stitched as far as I've gotten it by Monday, so we could stitch together. So be sure to download it if you haven't downloaded it yet. And the kit is also available as well. Here's what the kit looks like. So the kit has all of the supplies and everything in it right away. So that's handy if you don't want to trace the design or use that stick and stitch to transfer your design. I find it the easiest way, but it's not the free way. So if you want the free way, then the pattern, the digital downloadable pattern is free, and you actually still get you get the 14 days of stitching a day for each stitch. You get that whether you get the kit or the PDF pattern. But if you do get the kit, I would still recommend getting the PDF pattern because then you just have it available to you. It'll be in your library on the website there. So awesome, you guys. Here we are. It's coming together. I'm kind of itching to stitch the rest of that raccoon. I usually stitch the mane the main character first, because that's what I'm most excited about, and it's freaking me out that, that we don't have him stitched while we're working on all these background elements. So that'll be nice next week. I'll get that guy done right away when we get the long and short stitch completed. So thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll send John your birthday wishes. That's just so sweet of all y'all. And I will see you on Monday again at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. All right, have a great weekend. Good night.